This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good morning, Rabbi Glatstein. I just want to share with you something very briefly related to Parshas Beha'aloscha. There's a story at the end of the Parsha. The Torah tells us about Tadaber Miriam v'Moshe al oidos so isha kushis asher lakach ki isha chushis lakach. Miriam and Aaron spoke about Moshe regarding the Cushite woman that he took, the Ethiopian woman, the black woman that he took, because he took a isha kushis. So the question is, what does the pasuk mean? He did not take an isha kushis; he took an isha midyanis. Tzipar was from Midyan, not from Cush. So Rashi says it's really an allegory. In other words, Rashi says the same way a Cushite woman, a black woman, there's no machlokes. Everybody agrees she's black. It's not up to debate. So too, this woman was very beautiful, and it was not debatable. She was objectively beautiful. So, and they were talking about her. And what were they saying? They weren't talking about the fact that he married her. They were talking about the fact that he sent her away, because Moshe Rabbeinu, in an act of kedusha, sent away his wife. Feeling that it was not proper for someone like him who needed to be on call, that the Rebbe Shalom should come to him 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. He did not feel it was proper for him to be engaged with his wife at any time, because what if the Rebbe Shalom came to him and he was in a compromised situation with his wife? So therefore he separated from his wife. And Miriam and Aaron spoke about that. Basically they said, who does he think he is? Avram Avinu was also a great man. And he was not purest from Sarah. Yitzchak was Oila Tamima. Yitzchak was also a pretty big tzaddik. He sat in his Dalet Amos, and he learned and he davened all day, and he was not purest from his wife. Yaakov Avinu, Ishtam, Yoshev Halam. He was a man of Kedusha, Loira, Kari Miyamav, and even so, he was not purest from his wives. Who does Moshe Rabbeinu think he is, that he was purest from his wife? Moshe's father, Amram. He never did a sin. He wasn't purest min Aisha because he was a Navi. So who does Moshe Rabbeinu think he is? So they said, "Vayomer harak ach v'Moshe daber Hashem." What? He sent her away but not because of kedusha, just because Parah was killing all the babies. He didn't feel it was proper to bring children into the world. But then he took her back. But nobody divorced their wife just for the sake of holiness. He said, "Vayomer harak ach v'Moshe daber Hashem." Did Hashem only speak to Moshe? What, he's greater than us? Aaron knew the psukim. Sometimes it says Moshe first, sometimes Aaron first. So I'm equal to him. So I didn't divorce my wife. Vayishma Hashem. And then the pasuk says, Vayish Moshe ana ma'od. Moshe was the most humble man. Mikol adam asher pnei adama. Vayomer Hashem pisam el Moshe. Hashem suddenly appears to Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam, and he says basically the klale of Emunah, that all the other prophets Hashem comes to in a dream, in a unclear image. I speak to Moshe. The Rambam says from here we learn out the 4 advantages of Moshe Rabbeinu's prophecy over all the other Nevi'im's prophecy. Moshe Rabbeinu received prophecy awake. Moshe Rabbeinu received prophecy in clarity. Moshe Rabbeinu did not lose his faculties when he received prophecy. And basically Hashem is saying Moshe Rabbeinu is on a much higher madrega than you are. And he's on a much higher madrega than Avram Avinu. And that's why he had to be parish min ha'isha. Now the truth is Hashem did not tell Moshe to be parish min ha'isha. Moshe Rabbeinu did it midaitoi v'hiskamimai HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and Hashem was maskim to him. Which Bechlal is very difficult to understand. If Hashem was maskim to Moshe Rabbeinu, how could they speak Lashon Hara? Like, what was their problem? Hashem agreed to him.
How would they know that it was maskim to him?
How would they know? So Tosfos and Yevamos makes a cheshbon that they knew about it. Tosfos proves that they knew that Hashem agreed to his hanhaga. So the question is, so now they're speaking Lashon Hara about God. So Tosfos says like this. Tosfos says right. Tosfos says Avada Hashem agreed, but Moshe Rabbeinu manipulated God, because tzaddikim, God does whatever they want. So Moshe Rabbeinu said, "I want to be parish min ha'isha as a matter of holiness." Hashem says whatever you say. Hashem always says whatever you say to tzaddikim. Doesn't necessarily mean it's the right thing, which is an incredible concept.
It's very strange because we always talk about how...
No, it's only b'balatayr. Okay.
It's very strange because we always talk about how it's very unique that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was masking to Moshe on those 3 occasions. And all over the place.
Okay.
Gemara still talks about this.
So here's what I'm talking about today. Just mamish dvarim pshutim ma'od. So what happened? What happened to Miriam? So vayicharaf Hashem bam vayilach v'ha'anan sar me'al ha'ayal v'hinei Miriam mitzayras kashalag. Miriam became a mitzayra. So Miriam got saras. And Moshe Rabbeinu davened kelna rafan Allah. And Hashem said v'yavi yarak b'fanei Allah yisikam shavas yamim. Tisager shavas yamim michutz ha'machem v'achati asef. We have to lock Miriam up for 7 days. So Miriam was locked up, and we waited for her 7 days, and then we traveled. Fine, that's the story. So in Parshas Kiseitze, there's a mitzvah. Zachar es asher asa Elokecha leMiriam b'derech v'tzeisel miMitzrayim. That there's a remember what Hashem did to Miriam when you were leaving Mitzrayim. Now the Ramban learns that this is a mitzvah d'oraisa, to remember every single day of your life what Rebbe Shem did to Miriam. Meaning, remember what Miriam said, and remember what happened to her. Obviously, remember she spoke Lashon Hara, and remember the punishment. And this is supposed to be an eitzah to avoid speaking Lashon Hara. In fact, so let's just establish one thing. What was the Lashon Hara that Miriam spoke? She said Moshe Rabbeinu was an oisvarf? No. She said Moshe Rabbeinu was an Ha'aretz? No. She said Moshe Rabbeinu was a low madrega? No. She said that Moshe Rabbeinu, is he greater than Avraham Avinu? So wait a second. To me it sounds like a compliment. That means Miriam is basically articulating that this man Moshe Rabbeinu is as great as Avraham. And therefore, since Avraham was not allowed to be purest min ha'isha, Moshe Rabbeinu should not be purest min ha'isha. So what? She didn't say one bad word about Moshe. Imagine if you say about the Gadol, you say about Rav Moshe mamish nu shulchan aruch, he learned it 399 times. No, it's not true. He chazar it 400 times. So it comes out, it's Lashon Hara. In other words, from the episode of Miriam, you learn out a very important side in Lashon Hara, and that is, if you underestimate someone's greatness, even if you're saying that their greatness reaches, the furthest orbit. They reach the moon. No, they reach the stars. They reach the sun. In other words, the Lashon Hara that Miriam is being held accountable for and indicted for is the fact that she said Moshe Rabbeinu was like Avraham Avinu, and the truth is she was wrong. Moshe Rabbeinu was greater than Avraham Avinu. No, Lashon Hara Moshe. No, but Moshe was. Moshe is greater than Avraham Avinu. But her Lashon Hara was, she underestimated the greatness of Moshe. She said, he's not here, he's only here. Okay, so what's the big deal? So it sounds like the critique is not what she is being indicted for, because had Moshe Rabbeinu been only as great as Abraham, she was authorized to ask Aaron, what's going on over here? He's the one who gives the Torah to Klal Yisrael. It looks like he's doing the wrong thing. What should I do here? So it sounds like she's not being criticized for criticizing Moshe. She's being criticized for making a statement of what she thought Moshe's godless was, which was an understatement of his godless. In other words, if you speak about a great person and you say they're very great, he's a very great person. No, he's exceptionally great. That's Lashon Hara. In other words, that's the limud of Miriam, and there's a mitzvah. What? So, so now you can ask a good kasha, but Miriam didn't know. Okay. So then, don't say anything.
Isn't that just wrong? As opposed to a Lashon Hara where, let's say, like, when they inherit the salt, so the big grapes and the giants.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, the Rambam say that it's wrong.
So.
Same shot Lashon Hara?
No, so there, to point out the fault or the deficiency in something, that's for sure Lashon Hara. To make a judgment on something by honing in on the deficiency, that's for sure Lashon Hara. But here, if anything, she's honing in on his godless. She's saying he's like Avraham Avinu. But the truth is, he wasn't 99.9. He was 99.99999. He was a little bit greater than Avraham Avinu, or much greater than Avraham Avinu. So you ask, yeah, but she didn't know. The answer is, so you're not entitled to make a statement about the person's respective godless if it's possible that they're greater. If it's possible that they're greater. In other words, you're entitled to say, this person is so great, because it's a statement of declaring their greatness. But if it's in a way where, maybe, let's say about a gadol, this Rosh Hashiva, he's not as great as they used to be. How do you know? Maybe he's greater. So that would be Lashon Hara that we learn out from Miriam. Now, there's a mitzvah saseh d'oraisa, according to the Ramban, to remember this episode every single day of life. So the question is, so when are we mekayim it? So the simple way to be mekayim it is, every day when you're walking down the street, once a day, you should. By the way, normally when it says zachar we learn that it has to be bepeh. Same way Kiddush, you can't think Kiddush. You can't think Amalek, so you can't think the Ma'aseh Miriam. You have to articulate it. The Ramban says there's a mitzvah d'oraisa to articulate what happened to Miriam every single day. So the simple way to be mekayim it, according to Ramban, is every single day when you're walking down the street, you're supposed to say, oh, I remember what happened to Miriam when she spoke about Moshe Rabbeinu and she got saras. According to Ramban, that's one of the mitzvahs in the Torah. You wake up every day, you put on talis, you put on tefillin, there's a berachas HaTorah, there's tefillah, there are very few mitzvahs d'oraisa, there's Torah, and then remember what happened to Miriam. You have to articulate it. Question is, do we see people doing this? You ever see a person, one second, I'm doing mitzvah. Which mitzvah? Remembering what happened to Miriam.
Right.
Shkayach. You don't have to say the Shiur. Where does it say you have to say the Sheish Sechiros? The Rambam doesn't say it. The Ramban, you mean? The Ramban doesn't say Sheish Sechiros. So when are you mekayim the mitzvah? And people don't say the Sheish Sechiros about the mitzvah d'oraisa. So when are you mekayim it? So first of all, the Lashon of the Ramban, Chavetz Chaim brings down here on the Shiur. I'll read it very quickly. Chavetz Chaim says that when you speak Lashon Hara, you're over something like 14 mitzvah saseh. So the first mitzvah saseh, that person is over. Every time you speak Lashon Hara, you're over a mitzvah saseh. Over al-yidei zeh a mitzvah saseh, zachar yisasher asa, Hashem lekecha l'Miriam baderech. Sheziranu ha-Torah b'zeh, the Torah warns us, shenizkar b'peh tamid, we should always remember orally, ha'onesh hagadol, the great punishment, asher asa Hashem yisrach tzedekes Miriam, that Hashem did to Miriam, hanaviyah shula. Okay, now here's the thing. Well, it's her brother. You're allowed to speak Lashon Hara about your brother, right? No. So that's another you say. Shaloi dibra ela ba'achia. She spoke about her brother. So there's no heter of Lashon Hara to you about your brother, about your mother, about your sister, about your kids. Yeah, but she loved him. She was doing it because it was coming out of love. So what? Asher avasu kanafsha. She loved him like herself. Maybe she didn't care about him so much. No, she risked her life to save the guy. She's doing it out of the deepest care. There's nobody who cared about Moshe Rabbeinu more than Miriam. Even her own mother didn't do what Miriam did. V'gidlasa berkach, she raised him. V'siknatza hatzil min hayam, she endangered herself to save him from the sea. V'hiloi dibra b'gnusa, she didn't put him down. Elamash yishvasayso shar neviim, she just equated him to the other neviim. And she didn't embarrass him because it wasn't b'fun of, and it wasn't b'rabim. And who did she tell it to? She made sure to tell it to somebody who would be sanua with it, and the word would not get out. Rak beino leveino chia kadosh b'tzina. But you'll say, but it was mutter because Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't makbid because he was an anav. No, that's exactly why the next words in the Torah are v'ish ma'isha anav ma'od mikol adam. So from this mitzvah d'oraisa we learn out that even about someone you love, and you're speaking not out of malice, out of love, and you're not speaking about their ganus, you're just not stating their full godless, and you're doing it with the best intentions, and nevertheless, Miriam was nailed very severely in a way where, Rebbe Hashem could have covered it up. We wanted to travel. Can you imagine? Here we are, there's 3 million people, they're starving, they're thirsty, and they said, no, move already. People get very anxious. The Balkari goes a little bit too slow, people go out of their minds. So can you imagine? Here we have all of Klal, 3 million people, they're waiting. What's going on? Miriam, she's still in jail. Rabbi Hashem's not finished with her yet. And so says the Ramban, but she's a big tzaddikah, so she probably had enough good credit, enough mitzvahs to protect her. No, there's no protection. Kavachomer l'shar b'nei adam hatibshim, says the Ramban. Kavachomer, for the rest of us fools, hamarbim l'daber gedolos v'neflois achavreim, that halavai, this should be our Lashon Hara. Our Lashon Hara is big stuff. So when a person speaks Lashon Hara, they're violating this mitzvah d'oraisa. So the question is, first of all, when do we fulfill the mitzvah? So
basically, like, what hope is there for the Hamay Na'am or other than that?
So, the Chavetz Chaim wrote another sefer. Chavetz Chaim wrote a sefer, Zachar LeMiriam. So obviously you know already what this is, what the book's about. And I give you a shita. Look at this one really quick, at page Aleph, Beis and Gimel. He says, there's a pasuk in Yirmiyah, we lane it on, I think Shabbos Chazayin. No, on Tisha B'Av. Hatsari ein begilad, imroife ein sham, ki madua loy olsa aruchas basami. It's a pasuk. It says, Hatsari ein begilad. Is there no balm in Gilad? B-A-L-M. Imroife ein sham. Is there no doctor there? Madua loy olsa aruchas basami. In other words, Gilad was a big city, the Chavetz Chaim says. There was every medicine in the world. There were great doctors. And the Navi is matmiya. How come we're not healed? But it's an allegory. The allegory is that the Torah is such a big Torah, such a wonderful Torah, such a kind, understanding Torah. So what in the world is taking so long for Mashiach to come? Is there a medication for us from our ailment, from our illness? What is the ailment? What is the illness? The ailment is Lashon Hara. So the question the Navi is asking is there not a cure for our ailment? In other words, what is the cure for a person speaking Lashon Hara? What's the cure? We have a problem. We destroyed the temple through Lashon Hara. So how are we going to cure it? What's the medication? So the Chavetz Chaim says, the Navi asks, Hatsari ein begilad, is there no medication in Gilad? The medication is the Torah. And Haroife ein sham, the Roife is Ribbon Shalom. So the question is, what's the refuah? Chavetz Chaim says the refuah for Lashon Hara is this episode of what happened to Miriam. That is supposed to be the refuah. What's the refuah? The refuah is, you got to take a dose. In other words, a daily dose. It's a mitzvah in the Torah to remember what happened every single day. So the first thing that we have to understand is that there's a chayli. The chayli is Lashon Hara. And there's a refuah. The refuah is the story of Miriam. The thing is that if the medication stays in the jar, in the pill box, it doesn't do anyone any good, so it has to be taken. So now the question is, so when do we take this medication? So the simple answer is, as often as possible. It's something that should be on the mind of a Jew. When they're driving, when they're walking down the street, when they're picking up their kids from play date, from carpool, when you take them to school, when you go shopping, this is a topic on one's mind. The same way, do people think about their parnasa? Of course they do. Do they only think about it when they're working? No. They think about it all the time. They think, no, what's going to be? How am I going to do? I need to do a little better. It's a topic, it's on the person's consciousness. So the story of Miriam should be in the consciousness of a yid. But when do we formally fulfill the mitzvah? So there's a Magen Avram. Magen Avram, I believe in Siman Samach, quotes the Kavanos that all 6 zechiros you're mekayim in Avarabba, or Avasoilam, whatever you say. So, Ma'amid Har Sinai, you're mekayim when you say the words V'ker Avtano Shemcha Hagadol Sela B'emes. The Amalek, when you say the words L'Shimcha Hagadol, you're mekayim the mitzvah of Zechiras Amalek. So when are we mekayim the mitzvah of Zachar is Asher Asa Hashem Lekechel Miriam? So Magen Avram says, when you say the following 2 words, you should have in mind to mekayim every day a mitzvah d'oraisa. Lahaydoi slacha. When you say in Avas Olam, Lahaydoi slacha, you should have in mind to mekayim the mitzvah of Zachar is Asher Asa Hashem Lekechel Miriam. So what in the world does that have to do with Miriam? So the Magen Avram says, Hashem gave us a mouth, Lahaydoi slacha. and he did not give us a mouth to speak Lashon Hara. Look what happened to Miriam. In other words, those two words are supposed to be trigger words to Mekayim, the Mitzvah, the Iraisa of Zachar, Eis, Asher, Asa, Hashem, Leikechel, Miriam. So, at first glance, it seems like, like a remez. Oh, it's like a cute thing. It says, L'haidoscha, so Hashem gave us a mouth, L'haidoscha, and not to speak Lashon Hara. Sounds pretty random. Like, that's when we're Mekayim the Mitzvah? That's what the Magen Avraham really says? That's what he says. That the Kiyam, the Iraisa of Zachar, you're Mekayim when you say the words L'haidoscha. So the question is, what's the deeper meaning over here? Do the words L'haidoscha really capture the essence of avoiding speaking Lashon Hara? And the answer is yes, it does. And that, as we mentioned, one Shabbos from Rabbeinu Yonah. Rabbeinu Yonah writes that there are two problems with Lashon Hara. One problem is you're hurting somebody. But then Rabbeinu Yonah says, even if you wouldn't be hurting somebody, and even if it's in jest, and even if it's with good intentions, and even if they'll never hear about it, and even if it's a joke, the main problem with Lashon Hara is b'chirasai hara laharshia es chaverai, is basically the bad midah of honing in on your friend's deficiency. In other words, we've spoken about this. There is a midah that people have, that they could be pessimistic, negative, and grouchy, and look at a situation or a person and say, oh, they're not doing this, they don't do this, they don't do it correctly. Or there's another way to see a person's good qualities. Now, in order to thank Hashem in this world, people walk around very grouchy and grumpy and sad and upset because of all the perceived injustices, thank you, that they feel God delivered to them. And despite the fact that they're walking around and breathing and their heart is going and their liver is working, their kidneys are functioning, but they feel the Rebbeinu Shalom does so many avlas to them that they don't feel gratitude to Rebbeinu Shalom. That's the midah of Lashon Hara. That is the midah of Lashon Hara. The juncture in tefillah to remember not to speak Lashon Hara are the words L'haidoscha. You could choose to be somebody who uses their mouth to thank Hashem, or if you're not, because it's very hard for you to focus on the tovos that Rebbeinu Shalom does for you, then the opposite extreme is what happened with Miriam. Now, Miriam, if we would have said what Miriam did, obviously the Rebbeinu Shalom dealt with Miriam because she was a tzaddikus, and for her high madrega, she was held accountable. I don't know that if we would have done what Miriam did, we would have been held accountable for it. But the purpose is that if the Rebbeinu Shalom held Miriam accountable for speaking what to us seems to be negligible, that the limud is make a kal v'chomer, how careful we have to be, and the time to remember that are in the words in tefillah, l'haidos l'cha, that the Rebbeinu Shalom gave us our mouths to thank Him. But certainly, if you want to be mekayim in the mitzvah, b'miluai l'chadchila mahadjamin and mahavdrin, Chavetz Chaim writes in many mekaymos that if you have nothing better to do, say to yourself when you're walking down the street, oh, I remember what Miriam did when we left Mitzrayim. She spoke about Moshe Rabbeinu, and this is what happened to her. And you're mekayim a mitzvah the iraisa zachar is asher asa Hashem lekechel l'Miriam. Yeah, you could. It happens to be the Magen Avraham says that you're mekayim all the 6 zechiros between Avas Olam and Shema itself. So you have V'kerav Tanu. Any Sidurim here? Basically, the Magen Avraham says, and he's quoting that Rizal. That Rizal really says this in a couple of places, that you get all 6 zechiros over here. First of all, when you say V'kerav Tanu Malkenu, you have in mind Ma'amid Har Sinai. When you say the words Uvanu V'charta, Kabbalas HaTorah. When you say the words Shimcha Hagadol, is Amalek, because Amalek came to be Memait Hashem Hashem. When you say the words Be'ahava, you're supposed to remember the Maisa Egal. Now Hashem loves us, but not then. That's what the Magen Avraham says. And then when you say L'haidoscha, you have in mind the Maisa Miriam. So the question is, where's the 6th Zechira, Shabbos? So the 6th Zechira, the Magen Avraham says, is you have in mind when you say in Krishma, Uzachartem es kol mitzvahs Hashem, Shabbos is shakol keneged kol mitzvahs. That's what the Magen Avraham says. Now you could say the Sheish Sechiros is a beautiful thing, but you could also be Mekayim in Avasam. Okay, Rabbi, say have a great day. Shkaya.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.